All right, let's dive into some pretty fascinating stories today.
Oh, I know, right?
From the Gospel of Luke, chapter 16 specifically.
All right.
You gave me some excerpts focusing on the parable of the dishonest manager and the parable of the rich man and Lazarus.
Yeah, these aren't just any stories, These are parables,
Right.
and Jesus used them to teach some, really profound lessons
Oh, yeah.
about wealth and responsibility and even the afterlife.
And it's interesting, too, because Jesus is speaking to a mixed crowd here.
Yeah.
You've got his disciples, of course, but also the Pharisees, who were the religious leaders of the time.
That context is really key.
Yeah.
What Jesus does in Luke 16 is he uses these seemingly simple stories to challenge the conventional wisdom of the day and even expose some hypocrisy,
Yeah, for sure.
So let's start with the first parable.
Okay.
The dishonest manager.
Right.
We're in verses 1 through 13.
Okay, so picture this. A rich man finds out that his manager is squandering his money.
Yeah. Not good.
Not good for business.
Not good for business at all.
And the manager's about to get fired.
Uh-huh.
And he's facing a future of hard labor or begging. So desperate times call for desperate measures, right?
Yeah.
He comes up with a plan.
This is where it gets interesting.
Okay.
It's not about praising dishonesty, but rather it's about how we can use, our worldly shrewdness for a greater purpose.
Okay.
So the manager, realizing he's about to lose his job, he starts reducing the debts owed to his master.
Oh, okay.
By various people.
So he's basically currying favor with them.
Exactly.
Like trying to make friends in low places before he hits rock bottom.
He's trying to secure his future,
Yeah.
And what's shocking is that the master, when he finds out, actually commends the manager for his cleverness.
Wait, hold on. He's commending him.
Yes.
Isn't that rewarding bad behavior?
You see, that's the brilliance of this parable. It makes us uncomfortable,
A little confused.
It makes us confront our assumptions.
Yeah.
The master's reaction isn't about condoning dishonesty,
Okay.
but it's about highlighting the manager's foresight and initiative.
Okay.
And Jesus uses this to make a point.
Uh-huh.
If even a dishonest manager can be this clever about his future, how much more should we, who are called to follow God, be wise and strategic about our eternal future?
Okay, so I'm starting to see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
So how does this connect to the bigger picture?
Well, if you look at verses 9 through 13, Jesus is talking about using earthly wealth, what he calls mammon of unrighteousness, to help others and secure a place in, everlasting habitations.
Okay.
So it's about shifting our priorities from the temporal to the eternal.
So it's like investing.
Yeah.
But instead of investing in stocks and bonds, we're investing in good deeds and helping those in need.
You could put it that way, yeah.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that true wealth isn't measured by what we have here on earth, but by how we use it.
Yeah.
To impact others.
Right.
And to further God's kingdom.
That makes me think about our everyday lives.
Uh-huh.
How can we take this message and apply it?
Right.
It's not like we all have these massive fortunes to give away.
It's not just about money.
Okay.
It's about using whatever resources we have, whether that's time, talents, compassion, to make a positive difference in the world.
Right.
Every act of kindness,
Yep.
Every moment of genuine connection is an investment in something larger than ourselves.
It's not about these grand gestures.
Right.
But it's about living each day with intention.
Yes.
Looking for these opportunities to make a difference.
Exactly.
Now, keep in mind that context we talked about earlier.
Right.
The Pharisees are also listening to Jesus' words.
Oh, yeah.
Those sticklers for the law.
Uh-huh.
I bet they weren't too thrilled with this message.
No.
About shrewdness and using unrighteous mammon. What happens next?
Well, in verses 14 through 18, we see their reaction.
They overhear Jesus and scoff.
Uh-huh.
They love the law.
Right.
They love outward displays of righteousness.
Yeah.
But Jesus cuts right through that.
Okay.
Highlighting the difference between external appearances and true heartfelt faith.
I can almost hear them muttering under their breath.
Oh, yeah.
Who does this guy think he is, questioning our commitment to the law?
But Jesus doesn't back down.
Oh, good.
He addresses them directly in verse 16, saying the law and the prophets were until John. Since that time, the kingdom of God is preached, and every man presseth into it.
Okay, break that down for me.
All right.
What's the significance of this statement? Is he saying that the law is no longer important?
He's pointing to a shift, a new era, marked by the arrival of John the Baptist and himself.
Okay.
The law and the prophets were foundational.
Yeah.
But now the focus is on the kingdom of God.
Okay.
On living out its values of justice, mercy, and love. So it's not about abandoning the law.
Right.
But it's about going deeper.
Right. Yeah.
Embracing the spirit behind it.
Exactly.
Kind of like what we were talking about earlier with the manager's cleverness.
Yeah.
Being used for a greater purpose.
Exactly.
It's about aligning our hearts with God's heart. Letting that guide our actions rather than focusing on these outward rituals.
Yes.
Or legalistic interpretations.
Precisely. And that's where we start to see the real clash with the Pharisees' worldview.
This seemingly simple story about a dishonest manager has opened up like a whole can of worms.
It has.
It's challenged our views on wealth, responsibility, even how we approach faith itself.
Absolutely. And this is just the beginning.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack here.
We still have another powerful parable to explore. The rich man and Lazarus.
All right, let's do it.
Ready to dive into that one?
You bet. Let's see what other treasures we can uncover in Luke chapter 16.
Let's go.
Okay, so we unpacked that parable of the dishonest manager.
Yes.
Now let's move on to the parable of the rich man and Lazarus.
Okay.
Verses 19 through 31.
Right.
This one's full of vivid imagery.
It is, and it really helps drive home some stark contrasts, both in this life and the next.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're introduced to two characters.
Okay.
A rich man who lives in extravagant luxury, and a beggar named Lazarus who is covered in sores and lying at the rich man's gate, longing for even scraps from the table.
It's such a powerful image.
Yeah.
That contrast.
It is.
Between lavish wealth and desperate poverty.
Right.
Almost feels like something out of a Dickens novel.
Exactly. And Jesus uses this contrast to highlight the social divide, the indifference of the wealthy to the plight of the poor.
Right.
The rich man, despite having more than enough, ignores Lazarus' suffering.
Yeah.
Even the dogs show more compassion, coming to lick his sores.
It's heartbreaking. And it makes you wonder, how could the rich man be so blind to the needs of someone right there at his doorstep? Like, was he just completely oblivious, or did he just choose to ignore Lazarus?
That's a question that resonates even today.
Yeah.
How often do we walk past those in need, choosing not to see their suffering?
Yeah.
This parable forces us to confront our own capacity for indifference and to consider how we respond to those who are less fortunate.
Okay, so let's talk about what happens next.
Okay.
Both the rich man and Lazarus die.
Yes.
And that's where the story takes a dramatic turn.
A complete reversal of fortune in the afterlife.
Yeah.
Lazarus, the poor beggar, is carried by angels to a place of comfort and peace, described as Abraham's bosom. The rich man, on the other hand, finds himself in torment, suffering in Hades.
Wow, talk about a plot twist.
Yeah.
It completely flips the script on what the world values.
It does.
So what's the message here?
Yeah.
Is Jesus saying that all rich people are going to hell?
No, no.
That seems a bit extreme.
It's not about condemning wealth itself. It's not saying that all rich people are bad or all poor people are good. It's about how we use our resources and how we treat those in need. True riches, according to this parable, lie in compassion and righteousness, not in material possessions.
So it's not about what we have.
Right.
But it's about what we do with what we have.
Exactly.
Kind of like that message from the parable of the dishonest manager.
Yeah.
Where we're called to use our resources wisely.
Yes.
Even if they seem insignificant.
It's a consistent theme.
Yeah.
You know, throughout these parables, Jesus is challenging our priorities, pushing us to look beyond the material and consider the eternal. He's saying that true fulfillment comes from aligning our lives with God's heart.
Yeah.
From living out his values of love, mercy, and justice.
And it seems like the rich man finally realizes this.
Right.
But it's too late.
Yes.
He cries out to Abraham for mercy. Even asks for Lazarus to be sent back to warn his 5 brothers.
Yeah.
So they won't suffer the same fate.
It's a powerful moment.
Yeah.
The rich man in his torment finally sees the truth. But Abraham's response is quite revealing. He says, they have Moses and the prophets. Let them listen to them.
So it's not about needing more evidence or spectacular sign from heaven.
Right.
It's about the willingness to hear and obey what God has already revealed.
Exactly.
The truth is right there in front of them.
Yes.
But they choose to ignore it.
And this applies to us as well.
Yeah.
We can have all the information, all the resources. But if our hearts are not open,
Yeah.
If we are not willing to listen and obey,
Right.
then it won't make a difference.
This reminds me of something you said earlier
Yeah.
about the Pharisees scoffing at Jesus' teachings.
Yes.
They were so focused on the letter of the law
Yes.
that they missed the spirit of it.
Yes.
The heart of God
Yes.
that was revealed in Jesus.
That's a great connection.
Yeah.
Both parables challenge us to go beyond superficiality, to look deeper, to examine our motivations and our actions.
It's not enough to just talk the talk. We have to walk the walk.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got these two parables, the dishonest manager,
Yes.
the rich man and Lazarus. They seem so different on the surface,
Yeah.
yet they're both pointing to a similar message.
They're both highlighting the importance of stewardship, using what we have for a greater purpose, and recognizing that true wealth lies not in material possessions, but in our relationship with God and in how we treat others.
They both challenge us to confront our own hypocrisy.
Yes.
Our tendency to focus on outward appearances rather than genuine, heartfelt faith.
It's about aligning our lives with God's values, letting His love and compassion guide our every action.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that we are all accountable for how we use our resources, our time, our talent, and how we treat those around us, especially those in need.
Wow. These parables really pack a punch.
They do.
They challenge our assumptions about success, wealth, and what it truly means to live a life that matters.
Yes.
There's so much to ponder.
And that's just it.
Yeah.
Parables are meant to be pondered, to spark discussion and self-reflection.
Right.
They're like these little seeds that when planted in fertile ground can grow into something beautiful and life-changing.
So where do we go from here?
That's a great question.
How do we take these powerful messages and apply them to our own lives?
Yes, we're going to talk about.
Because it can feel overwhelming, almost paralyzing.
It can.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a great question.
Yeah.
And one we'll explore further when we return for the final part of our deep dive into Luke chapter 16.
We've really dug deep into these parables from Luke 16. The dishonest manager, the rich man and Lazarus. They've given us a lot to think about when it comes to wealth.
Right.
Compassion.
Yeah.
And what it really means to follow God.
Yeah. And you asked a great question before we transition.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here?
Yeah.
How do we take these ancient stories and make them relevant to our lives today?
Because it's easy to feel overwhelmed. Like, okay, I get the message.
Yeah.
But how do I actually live this out?
That's where it gets exciting because these parables aren't meant to just be head knowledge. They're invitations to transformation, to action.
So it's less about feeling guilty for what we're not doing.
Yes.
And more about like finding practical ways to make a difference.
Precisely.
Okay.
Remember the dishonest manager? He used his skills, even though they weren't exactly admirable, to secure his future.
Right.
We can use our own talents, our resources, however small they may seem, to invest in the kingdom of God.
So it's about being resourceful, creative even.
Absolutely.
In how we live out our faith.
Think about the talents you have, the things you're passionate about.
Yeah.
Could you use those to serve others? To advocate for justice, to show compassion in your community?
That makes me think about that quote, be the change you want to see in the world.
Yes.
It's not about waiting for someone else to fix things.
Right.
It's about taking responsibility ourselves.
That's the heart of it.
Yeah.
And the rich man and Lazarus parable reminds us that this change starts with our hearts.
Okay.
It's about cultivating a posture of compassion, you know, seeing the needs around us and responding with generosity.
What if I don't have a lot to give?
Right.
Financially speaking.
Yeah.
Times are tough for a lot of people right now.
Remember, it's not just about money.
Okay.
It's about time, attention, a listening ear, a helping hand.
Right.
It's about those small, everyday acts of kindness that often go unnoticed, but can make a huge difference in someone's life.
Like being a Lazarus lifter.
Yes.
Looking for those who are overlooked, marginalized, and finding ways to show them love and support.
And it starts with simple things.
Okay.
Checking in on a neighbor who's going through a hard time, volunteering at a local soup kitchen, donating to a cause you believe in.
Right.
Even just offering a genuine smile and a kind word to someone who's feeling down.
These parables have really opened my eyes to the possibilities.
Yeah.
It's not about grand gestures, but being intentional, present, and responsive to the needs around us.
And that's where true joy is found.
Yeah.
Not in accumulating wealth or seeking status,
Right.
but in living a life of purpose.
Yeah.
A life that's aligned with God's heart.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what final thought would you leave our listeners with?
Okay.
Something to carry with them as they go about their day.
I would say this. Don't underestimate the power of those small acts of love and kindness. You never know the ripple effect they may have.
Right.
Let's go out and be Lazarus lifters in our own unique ways, making the world a little brighter, one compassionate act at a time.
Well said.
Thank you.
I think that's a perfect note to end on.
It is.
Thank you for joining us on this journey through Luke chapter 16.
Absolutely.
It's been eye-opening, challenging, and ultimately very inspiring.
Yeah. It doesn't end here, though.
That's right.
I hope this deep dive has sparked something in you.
Yeah.
A desire to not just hear these stories, but to live them out.
To make a difference, however we can.
Yeah.
Wherever we are.